All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Content Therapy Live. My name is Arnell Pierre-Louis, and I am the content marketing writer here at RepCap and managing editor. And with me is the content therapist himself, Paul Chaney.
Hi
Say hello.
everyone. Hi everyone. Good to be with you again. Yep.
Yeah, we're back and we're
We're
better
back.
than ever. We had a little bit of a break, but don't worry, we're coming back to you guys twice a month now.
Hmm.
To the newcomers, welcome to Content Therapy Live. It's a refuge for content marketers looking for some perspective on challenges they're facing in their careers. To those of you joining us again, welcome back. And I hope you're ready for another session. Today, we're tackling some more questions about the layoffs that are happening right now and what happens when you meet your hero and they're not quite what you think they're going to be. But before we get started, we have got a quick disclaimer. Paul, although has experience with mental health and like therapy in that sense, this is not what we're here to do today. Today is just about content marketing, and he is very knowledgeable in content marketing, hence being the content therapist. So,
Yes,
are you
that's
ready to
right.
get started?
I am. Yes, I was involved in therapy for about, and of course, my dog hasn't barked all morning, but now, if you hear in the background, just disregard. He's decided to start, or she's decided to start barking. But
She wants
yeah,
to be a part of the experience.
seems to be, I guess, but just hopefully, it'll stop in a minute. I don't know. Sorry about that, folks. Live, but yeah, I was in therapy. I mean, therapist. No, I'm kidding. I wasn't. But I do have a little bit of background in the mental health field, but uh, that doesn't apply here. Certainly, I don't think so. Anyway,
But any questions you have about content marketing,
yeah.
we got you here. So, to kick things off, we're going to start off with a question about what on a topic that I feel has been in the news every 5 minutes, which is layoffs.
Hmm.
And if you have experienced layoffs, we you understand that it could be a very scary time, and a lot of uncertainty, but there is also some opportunities within there. But this marketer is having a little bit of a problem with whether or not she can keep her team or not. So it reads, dear content therapist, I'm the owner of a content marketing agency that specializes in helping tech companies with all their content needs. We've been operating for the past 6 years, and my team has grown from just me and my co-owner to 10 people. Things have been great, but the uncertainty of the economy is starting to rear its ugly head. Clients are asking for fewer services, and other potential clients are nervous to start a partnership, especially with the risk of laying off their employees. At this moment in time, we're able to keep all our employees, but I'm worried that it may not be enough. What can I do to maintain our financial stability, and how should I prepare for the real possibility of losing some of my team? Signed, anti-layoffs marketer.
Hmm. Well, and of course they're right to be concerned. I mean, the number of layoffs is really shockingly high. I think didn't I just read Disney had laid
Yeah,
off Disney Plus or whatever, laid off a bunch of folks, and I mean it's just one. It seems like you either see stories about this or about Chat GPT. I mean it's one of the two things that are in the that
yeah,
are always in our news feeds. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I mean there is that trickle down effect, I suppose, and this person needs to be concerned, but I don't want them to be concerned unduly. And I said in the column that their circumstance reminds me of the business fable, the book "Who Moved My Cheese" by Dr. Spencer Johnson. And I don't know if folks have read that book. It's an easy read. I would certainly encourage it, but it's a book about adapting to change. And basically, the plot or the storyline goes this way: there are four characters. Uh, I forget their names. Him and Har, two. Scurry is another one, and doggone, I forget the first one. But anyway, two are mice and two are little people. Okay, well they live in this maze and they love cheese. Well, eventually the room where they find the cheese no longer has a supply of it, and so in time, three of the characters, two of the mice characters, and eventually one of the little people characters goes in search of cheese elsewhere. But there's one who stays in the room just hoping that cheese will soon reappear. And of course, it does not. So the moral of that story, though, is if there's no cheese where you are, or there's less cheese than there used to be, you better go and search for it. Now, I think that has a lot of application for life and business, but in regard to business, the word that comes to my mind is the word pivot. And it's not unusual for companies to have to do that. In fact, I know a company that I used to work for in a marketing capacity that they've, over the last 20 years, have pivoted at least 3 times away from what they started, which was more of a technology oriented company. They had their own content management system, a CMS, and they were selling that into the market. Well, WordPress came along and kind of spoiled that fun. And so they still develop websites, which was what they used their CMS for, but they actually pivoted to start using WordPress. And then they added a whole marketing arm, content marketing and otherwise, to their business model. And so that's the road they went down for a number of years. Well, things begin to wane there. And so the CEO, who's, very creative and a very persistent kind of guy, pivoted again and came up with a different kind of marketing model that he takes his clients through. And and he's focused, narrowly focused in this case, on one particular industry sector. And so that's a third time, at least that I know of, that the company has pivoted. And so I would say to this person, you got to do that. You've got to go look for cheese elsewhere, as it were. So if your focus has been on the tech sector exclusively, then I would say embrace the idea. Well, there's 2 ideas, actually, I would suggest. One is embrace the idea of serving other industries. For example, are there industries related to the market that you've primarily focused on that might still be doing well, that you could, sort of transition into? Are there other type of technology companies, perhaps, that you could approach? And I'll give you an example. The AI, artificial intelligence world, and I'm not necessarily talking just about generative AI like ChatGPT, but a lot of companies are moving into that arena, providing products and services. I have a client, for example, that they work with the customer experience industry, and particularly in contact center realm, and they have some AI related products, and they're certainly on a growth track. So I would suggest step away, take a step back from just your strict focus on these type of companies that you've been working with, and look at who are closely aligned, or even maybe not so closely aligned. What other types of industries or companies are on a growth track? And the other idea here too that I really just kind of came to me this morning is maybe there's something else you can do other than just content marketing. Maybe there's other types of marketing that you could introduce into your service mix that might help you. Are you doing any kind of PR related stuff, or other kinds of digital related marketing, websites, for example, or I don't know, landing page creation, whatever it might be? But really just step back and try to get creative with the kinds of things that you're offering. And you may also have to really buckle down, become more aggressive with your sales and marketing efforts. Maybe you've relied on referrals. Maybe you've got a long-standing client base that's served you well. Well, now it's time to, again, go in search of cheese. And that may mean getting on the phone or doing a better job with your sales and marketing outreach. But I'd say ultimately for me, obviously laying off people is a last resort. Not saying you are going to find yourself in a situation where you are fortunate not to have to do that, but better to commit yourself to really getting creative, trying to find other markets to work in, maybe other services to offer before you take that very kind of tragic option. It's like somebody said, the only constant is change. To your credit, you're anticipating change that could come, but ultimately now it's time to adapt and go find you some cheese elsewhere.
I like that answer, and I love the story about, because you do have to go find the cheese elsewhere. But kind of pivoting that question and moving from the owner and the CEO point of view to the
Mhm,
actual content marketer point of view.
mhm,
So I do know what I guess what advice would you have for the content marketer, especially when this has come up a couple of times when this content marketer is being let go from a tech job, but you go onto like someone that company's LinkedIn or their website, and there's still a bunch of openings and listings on that
Hmm.
site. Like
Hmm.
how should what advice would you give to the content marketer in proceeding and necessarily finding their new piece of cheese and like moving forward when it's like there's so much uncertainty around all of that?
So you're saying the person has been let go or is in danger of being let go, and
Yeah.
you're seeing numerous job openings on LinkedIn. Is that what you're
Yeah, so, like,
suggesting?
numerous job openings on LinkedIn where it's like they're looking for people who necessarily had their job, but from going from one tech company to another, is that really a good move? Especially if
Right.
that's what they're
Yeah.
specialized in, or is it more so should they start looking for their cheese in another industry?
Well, I don't think it's a it's an either or kind of answer. I think it's a both and. I
Okay.
mean, if you are out of work and hopefully you've got some runway, they've given you some severance or some kind of runway, but regardless, then obviously you've got to go and search cheese somewhere. I think LinkedIn is an excellent place to start. There's some options you might want to consider. One is, if possibly you can afford it, going to the premium version, of LinkedIn, even for a short time, maybe just even a month or two or whatever. But obviously, you've got to get your resume fixed up and dusted off and that kind of thing, and then you've got it. I mean, it's to me, it's maybe I'm making this simpler than it ought to be, but you've got to go start in search of finding jobs that are a good fit for you and with companies that you feel like you would be a good fit for. One of the things that I do, even though I'm not necessarily in search of a job, I am in search of clients from time to time since I work for myself. But I use the notifications, so I get job related notifications that are fit with the sort of the keywords that I input, like content marketing or content writing or blogging or something like that. So that's certainly one thing. But I think philosophically, if you would, you really do have to think of yourself as working for yourself, and your new job has become sales, and the product that you're selling is you, and you've got to put yourself in a position. Now I'm a salesperson for this product, which is me, and I've got to do the best job I can in terms of getting my name out there, building some cachet in the market. And we talk about personal branding from time to time, and in fact, we are kind of going to morph over into that in just a minute, a little bit, with talking about this hero thing.
Yeah.
But I think to some extent, while personal brands and can run into conflict with the company that you work for, I think now, particularly, you really got to focus on building your personal brand. And what does that mean? That means doing things like networking with other people in your industry. Just because you may have a presence on LinkedIn doesn't mean you have a real active presence on LinkedIn. How about your LinkedIn profile? How late has your lately have you updated it? Is it current? I was looking at a friend of mine who actually co-founded a company a few months ago, and I went to his LinkedIn, and he hasn't updated his LinkedIn from what who he was working for. So that's one thing you definitely need to do. Start creating content on LinkedIn using the long form content option, or just posting, commenting on other people who are in the industry that you're looking at, or industries as the case may be, liking, building out your network, all of the above, everything you possibly can do to uh, you know put yourself in a position of being desirable. Because let's face it, I'll get a notification about a job, and I go and I look, and it says 212 other people have also applied for this. Well, how are you going to stand out against that kind of thing? So one other option is try to get in there early on and make sure that if you apply according to the way they want you to do it. Because obviously, as you probably know, LinkedIn gives you this easy apply option
Yeah.
where boom, boom, couple of clicks and you've applied. Well, I don't know if that's the best way or not. I have seen that LinkedIn will tell me that the person hiring has viewed my application, but I think you got to do better than that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you don't use the easy apply, but I am saying if there's other options that they prescribe, probably it's to your best benefit to do that instead. But
Yeah.
build your personal brand. You're selling yourself. Think of yourself as working for yourself in a sense.
I like that. I do. So we're going to move on to the next question. And if anybody is here in our chat, please feel free to post your questions. We'll have a little bit of time where Paul can answer them. But going on to our next question. This question, I feel like I've heard this phrase where it's like, don't meet your heroes. But I think this one takes it to a new level. So the marketer writes, "Dear content therapist, we've recently started working with a content marketing expert on a new guide with an accompanying video, social posts, and new graphics. This person is well known in our industry, and I look up to them. But you know what they say about meeting your heroes? Well, they were right. From the beginning, it was as if working with me was a burden to their entire existence. This evolved into being ignored, my ideas stolen, and getting overruled on many suggestions that would have helped the campaign. And now this person has approved content that many of us agree will have the opposite effect. I don't want to do anything to mess with my career or my coworkers, but with my name also attached to this, I feel like I need to speak up. I've tried to talk to them, but they have shut me down repeatedly. Should I bring this up to my boss? And if so, how do I broach this conversation in a way that won't come back to bite me?" And that's signed the very, very frustrated marketer.
Well, boy, I can relate to that. Because okay, they're your hero. You look up to them. You have an opportunity to meet them, and then in my case, you say something because you're nervous and you're trying to impress them. You say something really stupid that embarrasses yourself, and they look at you like, "Huh?"
That is me all the time.
Yeah, that was me with Seth Godin, no
Oh,
less.
wow.
Yeah, I had opportunity to go to one of his workshops and just said something foolishly stupid to try to impress Seth Godin. And well, all I did was embarrass myself. But even Seth Godin has feet of clay. These people are human. Do they deserve to be put on a pedestal? No. Do they deserve to be admired and respected? Possibly, certainly. And I appreciate this person's honesty and candor and just being very transparent about how they have put this person in a position of being a hero, but that person has become an anti-hero, have they not? So in response to the question though, yeah, what else are you going to do? It's obvious this person doesn't respect you to the degree that you respect them. They apparently, for whatever reason, tend to look maybe down on you. They don't, appreciate your expertise and all of that. So yeah, I would absolutely go talk with your boss, particularly because your name is associated with it. And it could become a perilous situation. I mean, if this person is, putting out content that you would agree works in the opposite way that it needs to, then, that could come back to bite you. So yeah, I would absolutely talk to your boss. And how would you talk to your boss? What would you say? I would say, be honest. Don't necessarily try to protect yourself. Explain the situation. Say to them, I've made repeated attempts to speak with a client. They shut me down. They won't listen to me. They don't take our advice. I would also say avoid any kind of personal bias. Like if you got your feelings hurt about it, don't let that show through. Try to keep it as objective and on point as you possibly can, right? Because you don't want that bias to affect your or prejudice your boss's opinion of the situation. There's also another person you could potentially talk to, and that's the account manager who secured the contract with this new client. Obviously, they have some, cachet or influence with that person, you would think, right? And maybe they and or your boss will advocate to you for you on your behalf. And I think that's never a bad thing, getting somebody who this person would pay attention to speak well of you, right? But I think ultimately too, the responsibility of creating the content lies with you, planning the strategy lies with you and your team. But what the client chooses to do with it, I mean, is that your responsibility, right? You hand it off to that person. You, then it's, I think your job is done. I mean, it's frustrating that they're not listening to you, but you do the best you can do, and that's all you can do, in my opinion. So speak with your boss, speak with the account representative, the salesperson, whatever you want to call them. Get their input. Maybe they have a take or an idea, a perspective that you would benefit from. Maybe again, they would speak on your behalf, but then just take some comfort in the knowledge that you did everything you could do to make it right, and you didn't take it personally. But the other lesson here, obviously, is while it's okay to hold somebody in high esteem and to respect them for who they are, and, the ground they've gained, maybe they don't deserve to be, elevated to hero status. Again, they too have feet of clay.
I do like your response to that, because I came across a LinkedIn post recently. I forget who posted it, but I think it resonated, not resonated with me particularly because I'm not in that position, but it made me see things a lot differently, where they said when you see like the CEO or even the expert, the truth is it's like they don't know everything. And it's the truth. Like like you said, they're only human. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these times, like these people in these expert level positions and everything like that, there are experts because not only are they very knowledgeable, but they also know that there's still more things to learn. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in this case, it's very similar to, well, I think we had another article where it's like, is the client always right? Where a
Mm-hmm.
marketer wrote in and was like, oh, like they want to do this, but we can't do that. It's like not doing this. So I do think it's very similar in a situation where, in a sense, the client is always right,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like you have to kind of like guide to make sure like you're not only protecting like the agency and your work, but also that's your client. You also want to make sure they're getting the best results possible. So you want to also protect them in a sense.
Mm-hmm. And another tip, and I'm thinking about a situation of my own. This happened a few years ago with that agency I said I used to work for that I told you about a moment ago. Um, but let me share the tip. One is make sure that any email communications with this person, you CC your boss on, or at least your supervisor, if there's somebody between you. And when I say your boss, I guess I'm thinking the CEO. He was my boss, but your supervisor, or if you can even go up the ladder, right? You CC that person so they are aware of the communications or lack of it, as the case may be. For example, if that person does not respond to you, I do recall a situation where there was this client and I was the director of content marketing, and I worked with pretty much all of our clients in the agency in one respect or another. I had a team of writers and other people working with me, but there was this one client. He was a good, I mean, I didn't consider him a hero. Okay. I mean, I did consider him, an industry insider and knew his stuff. I had great respect for him. I thought he was a good guy. The conversations that we did have seemed to be productive, but, I would say, here's our plan, or here's some ideas for content, or maybe just I would send an email to him and just never hear back, and to me, that's just not acceptable. Now, I get it. Guy was busy. He had other things to do, but to me, it's a sign of disrespect when you don't respond. And, and again, there's the idea of, well, pick up the telephone and call them, and maybe that's the thing to do. But I think in any case, any communications with this person that you have, make sure your boss is included in that so they're aware of what's going on to the best degree possible. But yeah, go talk to them and tell them the story.
I do. I think that also comes back to being able to communicate with your supervisor, manager, boss, whatever, in that way also comes back down to what the culture is of your team. Like how is it a culture where it's okay to speak up and provide feedback and ask for help, or is it more of a culture where it's like, okay, like we understand that you're frustrated, but the client is the client. The client is always
Mhm.
going to come first. We're going to do whatever the client wants. And I think that is a very big basis for a lot of people, especially in situations like this where it's like you don't really know. Like even sometimes, even
Mhm.
with the culture, if you do know what the culture is, sometimes you don't know where it's going to tip and how it's going to how what the outcome's going to be, especially if you're not at the managerial level. A lot of
Mhm.
times
Mhm.
it's people at the, I hate to say it, at the bottom of the totem pole who
Right,
get
right,
the most effect of this. So it's
right.
like
Well, that's
I
true, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think if you're in that non-communicative kind of environment, the thing you do is you go get in your car, you drive to a remote area, and then you just scream at the top of your lungs in frustration and let all that anger and everything out. Because I mean, what else are you going to do? The option there is to say, okay,
Yeah.
um, I've done the best I can do, or I'm doing the best that I can do, and that's all I can do. And you got to just make sure you've done what you can do. However, that doesn't always bode well necessarily either, because you know those bottom of the totem pole people are somewhat also like pawns on a chessboard. They get sacrificed, you know, to some bigger move, and obviously that's not the kind of culture you want to be in. You want to be in one that is more communicative and open, and where people are willing to, you know, work with you, collaborate with you, and see you as a valued member of the team. That's obviously a much more ideal kind of environment to be in, but you know, you don't always get that benefit. But I mean, you got to do what you can do to move this move the needle on this, you know. So take responsibility for doing what you can do. Don't
Mhm.
blame somebody else. Do what you can do. Own it to
Mhm.
the degree that you can, and wherever those barriers are, if there's no way for you to work through them, then you're just going to have to accept this is how things are, and I've done all I can do. But at the same time, you know, move that barrier if you can, or push on
Yeah.
it a little bit at least. So
I I agree. As I feel like as marketers, a lot of times when I think about us, it's I think about a meme, and this particular meme, it's like it's a cartoon dog sitting in a chair and there's fire everywhere around it and it just says I'm fine. And a lot of
Mhm.
times honestly describes
Yeah,
like marketing to
right.
a T, where it's like we are here doing a whole bunch of work, like wearing a bunch of different hats, and at the end of the day we just have to be like, I'm fine. It's
Well,
okay.
yeah, and you know, maybe you've got to impress upon your boss that they need to take you seriously, you
Mhm.
know, so that you know, they might again address the client as opposed to you having to do it directly. But you know, it's a tough nut to crack. But again, I go back to do everything that you can do, own the responsibilities that are yours, and then the rest of it, you can't allow yourself to get too stressed out over it. You know, get in the car, go scream somewhere, and come back much
Or
calmer. You know.
I definitely do agree. And if you do work from home, just kind of close your laptop, just
Mm-hmm.
go out, like either go upstairs to your room
Well,
or
I mean,
just
let's
go
face
outside
it,
for a
you
walk.
know, I mean, that's true. A lot of us still
Yeah.
do work from home, and you know, I've got plenty of places I can go and scream. I got a closet right next to me. I can go in there and scream. But you know, the other side of it is, you know, I mean, you take yourself seriously. You hope
Mhm.
other people will as well. But at the same time, you know, just kind of it's okay. It's going to be
Yeah.
okay. Sun's still going to come up tomorrow. It's going to be all right. And don't let yourself get all twisted up over it. Just don't. I mean,
Yes.
make yourself be okay with it. I know that sounds like maybe really stupid advice, but I'm telling you based on just a lifetime of experience dealing with, you know, sometimes very difficult situations. You have to step away. You have to give yourself grace, you
Yeah.
know, show yourself some mercy sometimes, even if nobody else will. You gotta be your own best advocate, as I've said many times in these columns.
Yeah. I agree. You can't control every situation, but you can control how you react and how you respond to it.
That's the best advice of this whole time.
Yeah.
You can't control every situation, but you can control you. You can
Mhm.
how you respond to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the saying? I believe Chuck Swindoll said, "Life is uh, what is it? Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it." So
Mhm.
it's all about your attitude.
Yes. And with that, I think that's like the perfect spot to end because we are at
Absolutely.
time. I want to thank everybody who came in for the session. Um, and thanks for tuning in. And then join us next session on February 23rd, same time, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern,
Yeah.
for another session of Content Therapy Live.
There we
Thank you
go.
guys.
Thank you
See you
all.
soon.
Bye.